This beautiful girl is entering a gas station, but is unaware that she has been noticed by some local thugs. Because she has a face as beautiful as an angel, a bald guy with long hair approaches and says, "Date me, baby." She firmly replies, "I'm married." Despite this, the thug doesn't give up. "No problem. I won't let your husband know about this." She warns, "Don't be so thick-skinned. I'll call the police right now." Unexpectedly, when the beautiful lady was about to take out her iPhone to call 911, a guy with a mouth full of hair came to the rescue. "This is my friend. If you two punks are tough, come at me." Seeing this, they were about to teach him a lesson when, fortunately, a patrol car appeared. Fearing a confrontation with the police, the two thugs had to back down and leave. However, the bald guy didn't forget to say sarcastically, "Remember my face." Before going home, the beautiful lady thanked him and said he should be more careful. "Don't worry, I often make guys like these wear morning clothes." But what the kind guy didn't expect was that these two were more persistent than hungry leeches and immediately followed him. The guy with the crew cut pulled out a gun and threatened him, but he wasn't scared at all. "I challenge your whole damn family." Who knew? The guy with the hairy mouth wasn't paying attention and crashed into a parked car, so he just had to flip a few times. As if that wasn't enough, the bald guy also brought a bottle of alcohol that looked like vodka on the outside, but was rice wine on the inside, and poured it straight on his face. "Big brother, please forgive me." As if he were deaf, he ruthlessly set fire to both the car and the unfortunate guy, writing him off from the movie. On the other side, the beautiful girl Maria, after leaving the gas station, went to pick up her husband Sergey and son Tony. However, unfortunately, on the way home, she almost crashed into a car going in the same direction, and it turned out to be the two guys who had teased her earlier. Knowing that they were thugs, Maria quickly rolled up the window. "What kind of driving is that, lady?" "I dare you to guess." Seeing that he was a man, Sergey couldn't just ignore it. With a cool head, he got out and told these two guys, "It was an accident, so on behalf of my wife, I apologize, big brother. Both of you will get free fast food without having to pay in my restaurant for a year." After saying that, Sergey gave this guy the address. However, the bald guy still stared at Maria as if he wanted to eat her alive. He thought that everything was settled, but these two punks soon came to Sergey's restaurant. The guy with the bowl-cut hair sat outside, while the bald guy, acting as if he owned the place, went straight inside. Seeing the beautiful lady just finished going to the bathroom, this guy pulled out a 21-centimeter gun from his pants, threatened her, and said, "You're mine." Realizing something was wrong, Sergey quickly went to look for his wife. Just as he was about to open the door, the bald guy pointed the gun and said, "Do you know who my father is?" Sergey calmly said, "If you're looking for your father, I can help." "Are you kidding me?" Maria was about to rush out when she was hit by his elbow. Sergey immediately snatched the gun and shot him in the crotch. Not showing any mercy to these guys, Sergey punched him once and dragged him outside. "Bowl cut, save me, bowl cut, save me. Here's your help. Come and get some scars." Witnessing the gentle Sergey single-handedly beating up two thugs, everyone was shocked. Using the bowl cut as a human shield, he grabbed the bald guy's hand and pointed the gun at his stomach, sending him to join the other guy. Immediately after, the police arrived at the scene. Sergey explained to his friend, Major Batraz, "I was just defending myself." Batraz replied, "I believe that there's camera footage, right?" Sergey continued, "Of course, those two wanted to do something depraved with Maria. Without needing an investigation, the police already knew who was right and who was wrong, so the couple wasn't detained but immediately took each other to get their wounds treated. However, Sergey didn't expect that the video of him beating up those two guys would spread like wildfire on the internet. It turned out that while he was dealing with them, a young man had recorded a video and uploaded it to YouTube. Suddenly, Sergey became a hero in the town and an idol of the youth, so there were thousands of enthusiastic fans as well as the media chasing after him. Like a duck turning into a swan, Sergey became famous. However, he wasn't happy at all because he knew that something bad would happen. Just as rumors spread, this incident caught the eye of an old, silver-haired man named Kostas. He was the boss of the most notorious mafia gang in Russia, specializing in large-scale drug trafficking and marijuana cultivation. With over 1,000 underlings and connections to all high-ranking government officials, he could take out any criminal gang without anyone daring to touch him, including the police. After watching the video broadcast on television, the boss immediately ordered his close confidant, Ivan the Four Eyes, "If you don't bring that guy's corpse here, I'll build a grave for your whole family." However, his son-in-law Andreas replied, "Let me take care of that guy. He'll just be a thing of the past." After saying that, he immediately set off to deal with Sergei for his father-in-law. It turned out that 15 years ago, when Sergei was working as a masseur for the boss, two guys suddenly came in to try to take his life. However, he was a former mercenary who had just returned home, so with his martial arts skills, he quickly took down these assassins. Seeing this, Costas made Sergei his bodyguard and assigned him many important tasks for the organization. During this process, he developed feelings for the boss's daughter Larissa, and as a result, she became pregnant. However, before the two could make their relationship public, while protecting the boss's eldest son, a motorcycle accidentally crashed into Sergei's car. Seeing this guy, being arrogant because he had money, assaulted the shipper. When Sergei tried to intervene, he was accused of being a traitor. He had hated him for a long time, so he took this opportunity to lock Sergei in a cell in the basement. To rescue her lover, Larissa pretended to scold him but slipped him a knife. Thanks to this, Sergei was able to cut the ropes. Just as the older brother opened the door to torture him, Sergei quickly choked him unconscious to escape. Right at this moment, Andreas appeared. He snatched the gun, knocked him down, then spared both of their lives, and fled. Seeing that his brother-in-law wasn't dead, Andreas immediately took action to blame Sergei, like killing two birds with one stone. To be more careful, he hit his head on an iron pillar to create a fake scene. After escaping, Sergei changed his name and hid in the suburbs. He married Maria, and the family had a very happy life with their young son, Tony. However, Sergei's wife also didn't know about his past. On the other side, every day the boss's extended family went to the grave to remember their deceased son and believed that Sergei was the culprit. Only Larissa didn't believe that. After the boss's heir was officially dead and Sergei had left this place, Andreas courted and married the young lady Larissa, hoping to become the successor in the future. However, he didn't know that he was just a cuckold. With the label of the boss's son-in-law, Andreas could do whatever he wanted, so this scumbag wanted Sergei to go to the afterlife as soon as possible to cover up his crime. His wife, who was also Sergei's ex-girlfriend, saw the footage online and knew that her father would take action, so Larissa immediately called to inform Sergei. However, he knew that in this Russia, even if he could escape to the sky, the snow wouldn't stop falling. Therefore, Sergei chose to face it and said, "You must have mistaken me for someone else." Andreas laughed and replied, "Even if you turned to ashes, I would still recognize you, you bastard." Just as the situation was as delicate as a hair hanging by a thread, unexpectedly, Sergei's close friend, the Major, arrived and said, "I've had the police cordon off and secure this area, in case some bastards try to stab you in the back one day." Hearing these words, Andreas knew that Sergei was in a safe zone and he couldn't act rashly here. So he and his underlings turned around and left. However, he immediately switched to plan B, which was to lure the snake out of its hole. Sergei didn't expect that Andreas was targeting his young son, Tony. Although he was only in 3rd grade, the little boy made many single guys jealous by having a pilot's license for older women. Tony had successfully wooed a 5th grade girl, and the two had exchanged rings to promise to be together forever in an ideal hut. To find the boy's whereabouts, Andreas immediately had some of his underlings follow Sergei's wife. That evening, little Tony didn't go home, but instead planned to take his girlfriend out for bubble tea when Maria caught him. She rapped a lecture saying that at this age, he should focus on his studies. The boy replied, "Mom, I'm grown up now. Don't talk back." After getting her son into the car, some underlings sent by Andreas surrounded them. One guy hit Maria in the face with a pestle, while 2 others kidnapped little Tony. They immediately sped off, making the beautiful lady chase after them, but she was helpless. After sitting in the middle of the road for a while, her husband finally arrived. Right at this moment, Sergei received a call. It was that scumbag Andreas saying, "Come quickly to the abandoned house at the end of the forest, or else don't blame me. If you touch him, I'll tear you apart, understand?" Without waiting for another second, Sergei immediately took a grab to the meeting place. Since the house didn't have a dog, he sneaked through the back door. Stalking the guys guarding outside, Sergei spotted one guy carrying a hose to take a leak. He had to get the gun, so he gently made this guy's head test its hardness against a tree trunk. With a weapon in hand, along with the guy's phone, Sergei set an alarm and planted it on the butt of a car there. One guy heard a noise and came to check, only to be shot by him. Hearing a disturbance, Andreas, who was inside, immediately went out to check the situation. Little Tony knew that his father had come to save him, so he immediately ran out the back door, calling out to his dad. Seeing his son, Sergei immediately went on a killing spree to stop these guys. With 2 guns in his hands, he created a suppressing fire zone, preventing them from advancing. Andreas, furious, took action against little Tony. Seeing his son get shot, Sergei immediately picked up the boy and tried to leave, but he was restrained by a bald guy. However, this guy knew what kind of person Sergei was and couldn't bear to see the boy die, so he decided to let the father and son leave. Just then, a passerby came by. Sergei immediately asked him to take them to the nearest hospital for emergency treatment. Losing 2 lives without killing Sergei made Andreas extremely angry. To avoid being blamed by the boss, he took 2 of his underlings into the forest to dig graves to bury the bodies. The 3rd guy was shot but still alive, so Andreas took him to an abandoned house for treatment. At the hospital, Sergei quickly stashed the gun on top of a ceiling panel in the bathroom. He felt immense pain because his past had affected his son. A while later, Maria and his close friend, Major Batraz, also arrived. Everyone was angry and blamed Sergei for everything. After the surgery, the doctor delivered news like a thunderclap. "We're sorry, the boy didn't make it." Both of them were devastated. What pain could be greater than this? So Sergei could only hold his wife and cry like rain. The police were also at the scene of the shooting by now, but there was nothing left, so they couldn't find any clues. His friend, Major Batraz, came to Sergei's house and said, "You have to tell me who did that." Not wanting to involve others, he replied, "I'll handle this myself." Just then, Sergei's mother-in-law came to comfort Maria, so Major Batraz had to leave. On the mafia gang side, the old man Costas learned that his son-in-law had acted on his own and killed an innocent boy. So he was extremely angry and said, "You're starting to disregard me. Why kill an innocent child? To me, whoever did that, that's the person who's got to pay, you understand? Now get the hell out of my sight." Losing faith in his son-in-law, Costas told his trusted henchman Ivan, "I'm putting you in charge of this." Ivan thought for a moment and said, "I know a guy who's capable of taking Sergei out." Right away, Ivan had 2 of his goons summon Russia's most notorious assassin, Ignatov. He was a former mercenary, so he had a lot of experience in killing. Word is you and Sergei were in the same unit back in the military. I figure you know him better than anyone, so don't let the boss down. With that, they handed the assassin a backpack with $2 million in cash. With bullets in hand, Ignatov immediately set out to take his old friend's life. On the other side, seeing that Major Batraz was demanding, he discovered his close friend's past, that Sergei had served in the army and then deserted along with Ignatov. Batraz also knew that Sergei was once a right-hand man, helping the boss Costas run the notorious mafia gang. After the old wife left, Batraz took out a picture from the drawer and looked at it. It was Maria. It turned out that he had a secret crush on Sergei's wife. Seeing an opportunity, the next day, Batraz went to meet Maria and told her that little Tony had been killed because of Sergei. He's a mobster and has been secretly deceiving you for the past 15 years. Half believing, after her son's funeral ended, Maria asked what his true identity was. Faced with the bad news, Sergei knew he couldn't avoid it, so he said, "The one who killed our son is the most powerful gang in Russia, and I used to be in that furnace." Maria was stunned. "Have you been deceiving me for the past 15 years? Tomorrow I'll file." Sergei was confused. "File what? I don't understand." Maria didn't beat around the bush. "A divorce, understand?" Suddenly his close friend Batraz appeared and added fuel to the fire. "You deceive everyone. You don't deserve Maria's love." Sergei frowned and retorted, "What does my family's business have to do with you?" Furious, Sergei decided to take revenge on the boss Costas. However, He didn't expect that the assassin Ignatov had been watching his restaurant day and night. Not seeing Sergei's figure, he sadly went to his house to monitor, seeing that his friend wasn't home. Ignatov knocked on the door and then gave Maria a blow to the face. After that, he pulled out a leather gun and threatened, "Call your husband here quickly. If you try anything, you'll only end up on the altar eating sticky rice." This made Maria's soul terrified. She was about to take out her phone to call when suddenly Betraz appeared. "Maria, if you say a word, I'll give you a bullet." Realizing that the policeman Betraz was outside, the beautiful lady called for help. Immediately, Ignatov kicked her without any mercy. Despite the police officer shouting surrender, he didn't hold back. After some fumbling around, Betraz attacked Ignatov through the window. Maria took this chance to run into the bathroom and lock herself inside. With no hostage, Ignatov immediately made his escape through the back door. Just as he hopped on his motorcycle to speed off, Betraz chased after him, firing his gun. He shot out the motorcycle's tire, so Ignatov had to make a run for it into the woods on foot. By this time, backup had arrived and joined the chase. Seeing a backpack full of cash in the trunk, Betraz got greedy and decided, finders keepers applied, and he pocketed it. After getting Maria into an ambulance and on her way to the hospital, he took the $2 million and stashed it in his shed. The scumbag Ignatov had escaped. The money was gone, but the mission he had received must be completed, so he had to walk to find Sergei. On the other side, Sergei didn't know about this. He tried to call his wife to persuade her not to get a divorce, but the subscriber you have dialed is currently unavailable. Too depressed, he took out the SIM card and threw it away as a farewell. Determined to avenge his son, Sergei met a friend from his army days named Bobby. Sergei had once saved this guy's life, so seeing him again, his friend was as happy as a father giving birth. Without beating around the bush, Sergei immediately told Bobby everything. With a sympathetic expression, Bob said he would help him take revenge by any means necessary. Right after that, he led Sergei to visit his place. Besides being an ideal hiding place, Bobby also led Sergei down a secret passage so he could exercise and improve his health. More importantly, there was an arsenal that Bobby had collected over the past 15 years. From long-range rifles to short-range handguns, everything was enough to take on the boss Costas' gang. However, 1 against 1,000 was no different from seeking death. After observing every move of the Mafia gang's mansion, plus the fact that Sergei used to come and go as he pleased in the past, the two made a plan. Right after that, Sergei and his friend Bobby disguised themselves as pest control workers to infiltrate the inside. Surprisingly, the guards didn't suspect anything and let the two operate. Going down to the basement, while his friend Bob was distracting the guards, Sergei quickly went into the storage room. Seeing a huge gas tank, Sergei knew it could blow up the roof of this house, so he placed 2 timed explosive charges here. All done, he casually walked out without anyone knowing. When the two left, his ex-girlfriend Larissa had just returned home. To make it easier to act, Sergei went up a hill opposite for easy observation. Discovering that Andreas and his father-in-law Costas were going up to the house, knowing that the time had come, before pressing the detonation button, Sergei called his ex-girlfriend and told her to get out of there quickly. Seeing this, Larissa immediately dragged her son out as fast as possible. Unfortunately, the boy was stubborn and wanted to go back to get his toys. This prevented Sergei from acting, and he had to wait for another opportunity. Suddenly, Ignatov appeared with a shovel, sneaking up to attack. Truly suffering because of friends and being miserable because of comrades. Wanting to relocate Sergei's residency to the underworld, Ignatov tied a car tire to Sergei's leg to drown his close friend at the bottom of the river. After struggling for a while, Sergei couldn't escape, so he gave up. Finally, seeing no more movement, Ignatov left and sent a video of him sending Sergei to the afterlife to the boss Costas. He thought his mission was over. However, no one expected Sergei, with great fortune, to be rescued by Bobby, who used a knife to cut the ropes. Not knowing if his close friend was alive or dead, Bobby took him back to the base to cover him with a blanket for a good night's sleep. At the hospital, Sergei's wife, Maria, was undergoing surgery because that scumbag Ignatov had repeatedly kicked her in a vital area. Fortunately, her injuries weren't too severe, so she was discharged by the doctor after waking up. Returning to her mother's house, Maria was extremely distressed because she had just bled without seeing the child's father anywhere, but she didn't know that Sergei, while seeking revenge for their son, was also on the verge of death, not playing around. Worried about his friend, Bobby invited a veterinarian to treat Sergei. With 20 years of experience in rabies vaccination, this doctor took a big risk and injected a strong dose of stimulant directly into Sergei's heart. This made his heart start beating again and miraculously escaped the Grim Reaper. On the other side, Maria was lectured by her mother for opposing her decision to divorce her husband. The beautiful lady didn't listen, so she packed her bags and moved back to her old house. While she was sitting dejectedly, befriending alcohol, the police major knocked on the door to get acquainted. This scumbag disregarded Sergei and said, "There are countless beauties in the world, but only my best friend's wife makes me excited. I love you without boasting. My love is a meter long and more." One would think that after hearing these words, Maria would slap him, but unexpectedly, she smiled and went inside. After placing the glass of wine on the table, the beautiful lady started doing despicable things, and what they did next, only the director knows. Waking up after a hard night and having a new love made his soul flutter with joy. He immediately got on his motorbike and returned home, telling his old wife, "I don't think we're compatible. Your face is too wrinkled compared to my handsomeness." After saying that, he immediately took his clothes and left, not forgetting to tell his wife to file for divorce unilaterally because he didn't want to see her again. This made the poor woman cry like rain because she didn't understand why. Taking the $2 million, but Traz was excited to start a new life with his lover Maria. Sergei had recovered. Seeing that risking his life to confront the old man Costas was too dangerous, he immediately discussed with his friend to plan a second mission using a different approach. Right after that, Sergei went to meet his mentor Shulgin, who was also a former leader of a mafia gang but had now retired. Knowing Sergei's situation, he said, "Costas' gang is backed by terrorists in Ukraine. You have to make the Ukrainians turn their backs on him, then take advantage of the situation." Understanding the problem, Sergei didn't forget to thank him and immediately left to carry out the plan. He reached out to a hacker named Reynard, a distant relative, like a step-cousin twice removed from his hometown, to ask for his help. After explaining his predicament, Reynard immediately agreed to help Sergei. The target that the group was aiming for at this time was the son-in-law, Leonard, who was responsible for selling marijuana to terrorists. After some typing, Reynard found out that the person he frequently contacted was a girl named Diana. Leonard didn't love the boss's daughter at all, so he often had a shady relationship with the prostitute Diana. Knowing that she liked strange men, Reynard pretended to be a handsome guy and flirted with her. After a while, Diana clicked on a link containing a virus, so Reynard was able to hack into her iPhone. Knowing that Leonard had a date with the beauty by the river that evening, Sergei's group immediately followed them. When the two were doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and both phones were placed next to each other, Reynard started to act. Through Diana's phone, the hacker was able to infiltrate Leonard's iPhone 15 Pro Max done with the job. The group immediately left. On the way back, the system detected an incoming call for Leonard. It turned out that the leader of the Ukrainian terrorist gang had ordered him to take $50 million to buy drugs. Learning this information, the group began to plot. The next day, while Leonard's underlings came to receive the huge amount of money from the terrorist bosses, Sergei's group had installed chips to infiltrate the city's traffic light system. Knowing that these guys were traveling in two cars, the Mercedes in front carried the money, and the Mercedes behind carried the assassins. When they reached the intersection, the car in front saw the green light and set off. However, the hacker Reynard suddenly changed it to red, making the second car stop. The car carrying the money immediately pulled over to wait for the car behind. But they didn't expect that Sergei and Bobby had disguised themselves as road workers and suddenly attacked, spraying them with sewage water and stealing the money before running away. The two quickly took off their clothes and went through the park to another road and got in the car to go home, dealing a heavy blow. However, Sergei said this was just the first step in destroying them. Receiving the bad news, the boss Costas immediately arrived and was extremely furious. He ordered an immediate investigation into who had done this. Right after that, the terrorist sent people to announce that if his gang didn't compensate for that amount of money, a bloody battle could very well take place, which made the old man Costas extremely worried. Just then, Sergei's gang was using a flycam to monitor every move in the old man Costas' headquarters. They discovered that the terrorist car was going out, so the group immediately followed. Just as he arrived to inspect the drug production workshop that the old man Costas' gang was in charge of, Sergei immediately came up with a plan to throw a spanner in the works. On the other side, Sergei's friend, Police Major Betraz, after leaving his old wife at home, rented an apartment to live in. He immediately called Maria to make a date, but she didn't even pick up the phone. It turned out that the beautiful lady only considered Betraz as a toy to play with. In a high mood, Maria immediately got dressed to go out on the town. Betraz brought flowers and gifts to give her, but it was too late. Seeing that, he had to sit in the car and wait. He thought that transforming into the man in the moon sitting under the banyan tree while he sat in front of the house waiting for her would make her heart flutter. However, when the beautiful lady returned from the bar, she brought along a young pilot. Not knowing that Betraz was waiting in the car, the two brazenly took each other to the room for a thin conversation. Betraz couldn't believe his eyes, so he went up to the roof to spy and felt something poking on his head. It turned out that two huge horns had grown. Too melancholic, Betraz just left the flowers and left. Seeing that, the young pilot immediately took them and gave them to Maria. In the following days, Betraz continued to give flowers, and she continued to welcome strange men. Checking the camera, she knew exactly who was giving gifts, but the beautiful lady didn't care. Even when Bobby went to the bar to relieve his sorrow, Maria saw that he had a cool-looking mustache, so she approached him to get acquainted. Bobby also didn't know that this girl was the wife of his friend Sergei, so he confidently accepted. Maria also didn't know who this guy was, so she fell in love and took him home, and just like that, they confided in each other all night. Betraz couldn't forget Maria's sweetness and almost had an accident. However, he didn't know that the assassin Ignatov was hunting him everywhere. The next day, Betraz was in his sights. To win Maria's heart, he went to her house and boasted that someone was following her and that he would check this place. Then he took out a camera hidden in his pocket and pretended that someone had installed it there to make the beautiful lady believe and follow him. Surely the mafia wants to kill you too. She thought it was real, so she immediately moved to Betraz's house. However, as soon as she went out the door, Ignatov suddenly rushed in and restrained the adulterous couple. Then he said, "Go get the money and pay me, or this girl will end up in the morgue." Having no other choice but for love, Betraz immediately followed. After going out to the car, he brought the backpack of money back. However, he foolishly tried to rush forward to resist and was given 2 sweet copper candies by Ignatov. Before leaving, the assassin left Maria 2 stacks of money as a handout. On the other side, after making a plan, Sergei's group started to take action to destroy the drug production workshop. Sergei and Bobby wore cameras and walkie-talkies. Following Renaud's instructions, the two carried bags of explosives and quickly broke into the yard. With just a few basic moves, Sergei took down the guards on the outside. Then the two continued to enter the building. Bobby connected a line so that Renaud could access the surveillance camera system. Knowing the position of the guards, the hacker directed Sergei to attack to clear the way. He didn't use a gun because he didn't want to kill innocent people. Having been a special forces soldier in the army, these guys were just small fry to him. Some Sergei choked unconscious. Others made their little bird stop singing. Rushing straight into the warehouse of the production workshop, he chased everyone out. Knowing that this was the entire fortune of the boss Costas, Sergei decided to burn all this marijuana to vent his anger. After setting fire and leaving the bag of explosives behind, both of them immediately made their escape. After this incident, the four-eyed underling Ivan said, "I suspect that Sergei is not dead, and it was all his doing, because no one else would dare to do that." Furious, the boss Costas sent people to find the assassin Ignatov to hold him accountable. On the other side, Ignatov had money in hand and was planning to take his lover and run far away, but she said, "If you're a chill guy, you can't be in a hurry. We have to celebrate with a grand fireworks display." It's true that behind every failed man is a woman who gives bad advice. When the two were making love, the boss's men appeared. Not only was all the money confiscated, but he was also taken to the lake where he said he had drowned. Sergei in the river. They searched and searched but couldn't find the body. So the boss put his head in a plastic bag and sent him on a journey to the west with Sun Wukong. Fortunately, the police appeared, so he was put in a cell to be dealt with later. Knowing that Sergei was alive, the boss sent his son-in-law to investigate and discover his hideout, knowing that uninvited guests were coming. Bobby took out his rifle to block the way for Sergei and Renaud to go down to the secret passage to get guns. However, they had a better nose than a dog and quickly followed. In the meantime, Bobby was unfortunately shot twice. Knowing that he wouldn't make it, he said, "You two quickly follow the secret passage and leave this place. I'll hold them back. Go now." On the outside, Andreas and his underlings couldn't break down the door. However, they unexpectedly found a cutting machine and immediately started working as locksmiths. The situation was as delicate as a hair hanging by a thread. With no other choice, Sergei and Renaud quickly left. Bobby tried his best to stand up and took a grenade. If the Lord dies, the servant must also perish. Waiting for them to open the door, he pulled the pin and blew the whole gang of scumbags to the sky. Fortunately escaping, Sergei immediately went to find the old man Ivan to take revenge. After taking down 2 guards as easily as putting a baby to sleep, Sergei broke in and met his ex-girlfriend Larissa. She said, "My father is not the one who ordered the killing of your son. It was all done by Andreas on his own. I know you didn't kill my brother back then. Meet my father, so the two of you can talk face to face." Following his ex-girlfriend's advice, Sergei went to meet the boss. He told him everything, but he was skeptical and said, "Give me time to investigate. For now, you stay here." After saying that, he had Sergei locked up in the dungeon, where Ignatov was also being held. Right at this moment, the terrorists attacked the headquarters because Kostas' gang had caused them great losses without paying a penny in compensation. Sergei's plan to pull strings and borrow a knife to kill had succeeded. A gunfight broke out, and the old man was hit. The son-in-law, along with the survivors, got into a car and ran away. The terrorists immediately gave chase. In an urgent situation, Larissa went down to the basement to release Sergei and begged him to save her father. Ignatov also wanted to help, so he was set free. Right after that, the two didn't say a word to each other, but immediately set off. In front, Andreas and Four-Eyed Ivan took the boss to an abandoned building. However, there were too many terrorists, so it was difficult to hold on. Fortunately, Sergei and Ignatov had also arrived. As mercenaries, the two fought bravely, shooting them without missing a shot. Just appearing was enough to get hit. In just a moment, the two friends had dealt with all of them. However, Ignatov was unexpectedly hit by a rocket from behind. Inside, Ivan was shot. So in his dying moments, he told the boss, Andreas was the one who killed the eldest son. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you." Knowing the truth, he asked his son-in-law, "You choked the eldest son, didn't you?" He was afraid of being exposed, so he took action. "I'll let you and your father reunite. In the afterlife, the wealth must belong to me." Suddenly, a subordinate appeared. However, this guy didn't act immediately, so Andreas seized the opportunity to kill. Sergei also arrived and shot him to pieces to avenge his son. Finally, everything was over and all the evildoers had to pay. The film shows us that karma doesn't spare anyone. All evildoers will face retribution. So, everyone, please be good citizens and stay away from the dark side. That's all for today's movie. If you found this video good, don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to support me, so I have the motivation to make many more good videos. Goodbye, and see you again